What's going on, people? Welcome to another Get It Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and my guy, Kev Lucas. Kev, what's going on, bro? I know you hype, bro. I know you hype.
Man, you know I am. Back to the Sweet 16. A lot of people counting out my coach. We'll talk about it, but like I said, it's March, man. What else can you can't? There's nothing better than this when it comes to sports for me, at least. It's the best time of the year. A lot of crazy ass games took place this past weekend. It's probably gonna be some even crazier games this upcoming week. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man, and great for you. Not so good for me. My Blue Devils went down. We lost to Tennessee. I was talking a lot of hot garbage, and they didn't go the way I wanted to with our Blue. But we'll get into that a little bit later and all that. Won't sour from the jump. But I am very sad. I've been watching One Shining Moment. I'm like, damn, I thought it was thought maybe me, but this is not gonna happen for Duke this year. But like I said, we'll get into that and we'll talk about Michigan State and the rest of the Sweet 16 because we got some great matchups in the Sweet 16, man. Very, very excited. But there's been a lot of things going on in the coaching ranks. A lot of moves, a lot of things have been shaken, and we got some new coaches in some new places. So let's get right into it. Just a few moves and then we'll get into detail. We got Michael Shrewsbury that was just announced just not too long ago. He's going to Notre Dame. Now, I thought maybe he would stay maybe another year at Penn State and maybe get a better job, but he's going to Notre Dame. Good for him. He's had a tremendous season. Penn State had a tremendous run this year, so he's going to Notre Dame. Ed Cooley going to Georgetown from Providence. That Georgetown's needed that umph, and Ed Cooley could be the guy for that. Rick Pitino. Kev, I've been calling this. I said St. John's better be number one, and that's it. There's some other names. It's like, no, it's gotta be Pitino. And they got their guy. So Pitino, St. John's. Damon Stoudemire going from the NBA ranks from Boston Celtics, going to Georgia Tech. I think that could be a great move for G Tech. Tobin Anderson. The talk of the tourney had Fairleigh Dickinson be the second 16th seed ever to be the number one seed when they took down Purdue. He is going to replace Pitino at Iona. I think that is he's going to be a guy that's just going to keep moving on the ranks as we go. He has the energy. He's the type of coach that I feel like you're going to run through a wall for. So Tobin is going to Iona. We talked a little bit about Chris Beard last time. Chris Beard will be going to Ole Miss. We'll get more into him and all that and how that affects Ole Miss going forward. Adrian Autry obviously is replacing Boeheim at Syracuse and all that. So, Kev, we just listed off some coaching, some new places, new coaches and new places. Just give me a few names off the top of your head that are going to feel like you're going to make the most immediate impact.
Man, it's got to be the main ones you said in the Big East, man. Pitino to St. John's that's massive. If anybody could bring back St. John's to national prevalence and relevance, it's Rick Pitino. I think he's been dying for a high major job. This was the perfect opportunity. He came out in his press conference yesterday, said the best part about it was he didn't have to move houses. He could just, I don't know how far New Rochelle is, you know better than me, but so I think what he's about to do there is build a monster. It might take 1 or 2 years. People are saying it's going to take just one season. They're going to be good, which, I don't really ever have high expectations for year one, but if anybody could have a great year one, it will be him. And then with Ed Cooley, man, like, I want to first start by saying that for all the bitter Providence fans out there, please get over it. Like, if you had an opportunity, it's a lot of them. I seen the news trying to drag them down because they played bad the last month and some change. They weren't playing good. They thought, Ed wasn't really committed to Providence anymore. Like, if you have an opportunity to go play and coach or whatever, or you just have an opportunity to go upgrade your career, you're going to go do that. If you're going to get more money, you're going to be closer to your family. His daughter goes to Georgetown. She's about to graduate. Like, leave Ed Cooley alone. Ed Cooley is a hell of a coach, and I know it's tough for him because he's from Providence. He's literally the golden child of Providence, Rhode Island. He's born and raised there. And so I know he contemplated that move. And, he said he had a prior relationship with Big John Thompson, rest in peace, and that motivated him to take the Georgetown job. And just like Pitino, if anybody could bring St. John's and Georgetown back to the rise, then it's Ed Cooley. And I'm not saying he's going to bring him back to Hoya, Saxa and Hoya Paranoia and all that, but he can get them right. The DMV is still to this day, it's always been a hotbed of talent.
100%.
It's never gonna be a lack of talent in the DMV. Even if you get the C tier talent in the DMV, that's still good enough to have
Mm-hmm.
you competing in the Big East. So I'm happy for both them, really. I'm not gonna lie. I know people got their opinions about Rick Pitino, but what he did wasn't the worst thing in the world. Like college kids, I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's not
I love fine.
it's not great, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's coaches out here
This
doing way
coach is
worse.
doing way worse than what
Way
Patino
worse.
did. Like,
So
and he's acknowledged what he's done,
mhm.
and said, well, I didn't do, but for everything, like to take away the national championship and all, like he still won like we acknowledge that he's a two-time
Yeah.
national champion. Right? He won at Louisville and
Yeah.
Kentucky. Like he's a champion. Like we don't look past. Oh, Louisville never won that. No, they won the national championship that year. So like
Not one bit.
take it away from that is ridiculous and all that. But we all knew he wasn't staying at no Iona. He wasn't
on,
staying at the lower ranks. We knew he had to work his reputation back up because
Mhm.
he got thrown in the mud. And we knew he was going to, and it was just a matter of the right job. And a lot of people said that maybe St. John's, and it might not be the best job, right? Just off track record for St. John's. But if you're St. John's, you had to make this move. And I told you, it's like it has to be Patino.
Mhm.
Like when I knew they're gonna fire Ensign, like I was like, and that situation's got a little crazy and all that. Like, just pay the man, give him his money, let it
Hey,
go.
Mike Anderson, man.
You're on to pay him. You got your guy. You're right.
Mhm.
Just give him his money, get coach's money, and just let it rock. Like whatever. All right. Well, it's a lot of money. Whatever. Just let it go. Stop being cheap. Give him his money and worry about the future because the future could be really bright. Like Patino, like he doesn't coach. Like he's like 71 right now. He don't have that 71. He don't have that old head type of mentality. He's more of it's crazy with him being that old. He's still got more of like a youthful type of personality. And he's if the St. John this is a home run. You had to make this move. Financially, whatever, like you had to make this move. Same thing with Colorado did Dion. You have to when you're a school like that, and like you're in New York City. You're in New York City. Like you have to make this move. You got a coach who's in New York, and I'm tired of seeing the kids leave. They're going to Carolina. They're going here. They're going upstate. No. Stay here. Patino can get, and we already hear some rumblings that some kids that, some top flight 5 stars, that were maybe going Carolina and all this. He could be able. He's the man that could flip them and keep kids here, and that's a huge thing because when the Northeast is good in basketball, and then you got the New York team. I've talked to Blue about that. Like, if the city will get behind St. John's if they're popping, and it's a different crowd.
Mhm.
You're not gonna get the typical college. You're gonna get the heart of New York City there. Like it's gonna be a great. So I think this is a home run. He's gonna be able to get what he wants. They had to have just gave him say, hey, what do you want?
Exactly.
Whatever you need. You need money for your assistants. All right, bet we got you. You need money for recruiting, for whatever. We got to do that. So I think that was an absolute home run, and I think I think a lot of these coaches are going to have immediate impacts, but to me, Patino's going to me, it's number one because they have some good players as is.
Mhm.
Right, Posh, Soriano's coming. Soriano's a double machine. Posh is a bucket getter. They got I forgot the kid they have to coming in this year.
Brandon Gardner.
Yeah, he's good. And for
Mhm.
next year, they could possibly get some 5'4", the high end like superstar talent. So to
Mhm.
me, that's a job. How do we feel about Michael Golden Notre Dame? Because we've talked about the Notre Dame job. Like in football, it's a tough job, right? And we know Notre Dame for football, right? And we know we've seen Brian Kelly, like he's gotten to national championship, he's gotten to the Final Four, right? And it's like you go against the upper tier teams, and you're like, I can't beat these teams because it's just too hard to recruit because of and hard to bring in transfers, right? We've heard about a lot about that, how it's really difficult to bring in transfers and all that. And now in this day of the transfer portal, that's my if you're not recruiting the top end talent, you got to do it through the transfer portal and all that. Especially, and you can get great talent as we've seen, and we're going to talk about that
Mhm.
soon. It is. How do you feel about Micah? Because he did obviously turn his job at Penn State, and we thought maybe he would stay one more year, and maybe bank off another good season at Penn State, and then maybe get a better job. because we know Notre Dame's difficult. So how do we feel about Micah going to Notre Dame?
It's a tough loss for the Big Ten, obviously, especially Penn State, because I didn't even know, but bro, until this year, Penn State had not won a single NCAA tournament game since 2001. I did not know that, and
Yeah.
for him to do that, they made a run to the Big Ten championship game in the tournament too. So like, what he just did in his couple years there was honestly amazing. I love his style of play. He plays like an NBA offense, kind of like Muss down in Arkansas. They just hunt mismatches. They find what's working. They stick to it, and they don't go away from it until the opposing coaching team figures it out. And I think at Notre Dame, like you said, to me, I think they're both difficult jobs just because of where they're located and the schools in the same state. Like at Penn
Mhm.
State, I feel like you can recruit with Pitt easier, in my opinion. And Villanova's not really a threat because Villanova, they're very selective with their offers. So you're not really competing with Villanova. So in Indiana, though, you got Mike Woodson there, you got Matt Painter there. They're always going to get the top Indiana kids. And I think the best thing about it is he's home. I think that's the biggest thing it comes down to. He went back home.
Mhm.
He literally started off his career there. He's gonna have all his family there to support him. Notre Dame is a tough job, but as long as the university understands his vision and they fall in line with his vision, they'll be fine. Like he knows what he's doing. He's been with the Celtics. He's been with Brad Stevens, who's with the Celtics now. Like he just knows. He's been with Matt Painter at Purdue. He's gonna be fine. I'm not a big Notre Dame fan, but he'll be fine. Year one is going to be tough because they're losing a lot of seniors. Of course, you know,
Yeah.
JJ Starling went to Syracuse.
Mhm.
But I think he's going to be fine. Shrewsbury's a hell of a coach, man. Hell of a coach.
He is, and you know, sometimes, and like we just said before, he could have waited another year and maybe get another job. But what's the key word there? Maybe. There's no
Mm-hmm.
guarantee that he's going to replicate what he did the last few years at Penn State. So, and what if it go? What if it's 13-20, and now your name's no longer there? So, rather take this job, and if you got to move on up from there, then you move up rather than maybe Penn State, your bad year, and then those jobs ain't there no more, and now you're now this there, so, and you're screwed. And so good for him, good opportunity. Hopefully he does well there. Let's talk about Damon to Georgia Tech. And what does that mean for Georgia Tech? Obviously, we know Damon and his Arizona Wildcat legend and all that, coaching ranks in the NBA and all that. What do you think his impact's going to be made at Georgia Tech?
This one's an interesting one because I do like it. He was recently the coach at Pacific, which is a hard job out here in Northern California, in the WCC, which is we all know is kind of like a lackluster conference with all due respect. But he goes to the NBA. He's with the Celtics for I think like the past couple years, and now he's back at the collegiate level. And when you look at Georgia Tech, the history itself screams greatness. There's been so many legendary point guards that have come through there. Jared Jack, whole bunch. I can go down the list. Jose
Yeah, Kenny
Alvarado.
Anderson.
Yeah,
We got
all them
Stephon
guys.
Marbury. We
Marbury, yeah.
got
The list goes on and on and on. So
Yep.
I assume he's going to keep that rich tradition of point guards because we all know point guards love more point guards. So and honestly, when you look at the state of Georgia, he really doesn't even have to go that far to recruit talent.
Exactly, bro.
Stay in state and be fine.
That should be with his pedigree, his basketball pedigree. He should be able to, even if you can't get the elite of the elite right away, even the second tier, you should be able to get some top tier talent there and fix things and be in the mix in the ACC.
And again, it's a tough job. You can make the case as a bottom tier ACC job right now.
Right now,
I do have faith in them to get it right. Like I said, you don't have to leave the state to recruit talent. I always say, look at the SEC the past 5 years. The best players have come from Georgia. Anthony Edwards at Georgia, of course, Sharif Cooper and Jabari Smith at Auburn, JD Notae last year at Arkansas. The list goes on. And JD Notae wasn't as highly touted as those names I listed prior to him. So he's going to be fine. As long as he just stays in tune with himself, hires the right coaching staff, understands the grassroots level, which I'm pretty sure he does. Damon Stoudemire, that's a hell of a get. Josh Pastner, nothing against him, but time just ran his course. He wasn't going anywhere, and sometimes it just happens. But I think Damon Stoudemire, that's a hell of a get for Georgia Tech, for them to try and get themselves back on a national stage. Damon Stoudemire is more than capable of doing it.
Yeah, he should get them back to being respectable in the ACC. So that's looking forward to see what he does there. What about Ed Cooley to Georgetown? We talked about Georgetown a lot. Obviously, Pat. I love Pat. He's a Knicks legend, Georgetown legend. His time was up. We knew that his time was up, and we feel, and we talked about this. We feel like Georgetown needs to get past, that era, right? We kind of, it's time for a new brand of Georgetown basketball, and like we said, with Georgia Tech, like they don't got to go far. They don't got to right there. They can recruit right there in the DMV, and they can get abundance of talent. So, what do we feel like Cooley can do there?
He gonna get it booming off the rip.
I think so too. Like him and Patino, I think are gonna. The Big East we might get the Big East back. We back like old school, like even Kemba. That even not even have to go too far back. Kemba, like it might be back. Like, and I think that's good for college basketball. The Big East is popping. This is good. Like I'm glad we got the Big East back and all that to the extent. But now we got Patino, Cooley. Okay, we got something. So along with all the great coaches we got, like we got something in the Big East right now.
Especially too, shout out to my guy Jaquan, Who Dreams NYC on Instagram. Does a hell of a job just covering the tri-state area when it comes to high school hoops and stuff like that. He said, like, because he was at MSG a couple weeks ago for the Big East tournament, he said the Midwest is slowly but surely, like low key, taking over the Big East, and that's probably going to change now with Cooley and Patino coming back. But you look at Shaka Smart at Marquette, had a hell of a year. You look at Creighton, they're in the Sweet 16 right now. You look at Xavier, same thing. So the Big East is in a great place right now. I think that's beautiful for the game. And when it comes to Cooley, it's popping again. He came out and said that I'm gonna build this thing back to a national championship level type of program. We're gonna have a home and home series with Maryland again. That's gonna be great for that area. That's gonna get kids to want to stay at both those schools and stay close to home. So I love it. Again, for all the Providence fans out there mad at him, forget about it. And also too, with that, Providence hired their coach too today. It hasn't been officially introduced by the university, but Kim English is the new coach at Providence. I think that's a hell of a get. Former NBA player for a brief time, played at Missouri, recently coaching at George Mason. He is young. He hasn't been coaching college basketball for that long, but when it comes to just being one of the hotter, younger coaching minds in the game right now, Kim English is more than ready. If the Providence Friars fans just give him a little bit of time, you can't compare every coach to Ed Cooley. Ed Cooley is the greatest coach in your program's history. When it comes to just winning, you can't do that. Obviously, it's hard to replace a legend like that who's from there, but give Kim English time, and Providence will be fine again in the Big East. And going back to Cooley, man, like we kind of need Georgetown to be good. Like I think it's too historic. It's too much of a classic program to be down for as long as it's been. Because the last time they've been good was like 2013. That's a decade. And
That's a minute.
That's a minute. 10 years is a lot of time. So I'm happy for Cooley, happy for his family, happy for all Georgetown fans out there. They can go on the record and say that they're back. It might not age well in year one, but trust me, like year two, Georgetown's going to be a formidable threat. I'm already seeing some of the dudes that they're contacting, the transfer they're looking at, potential recruits. Georgetown is back.
Georgetown is back, and that's good. Like I said, we need more great teams in the Northeast, and we might be on our way there. So very, very, very exciting times for some of these schools and all that. Let's talk about Tobin. Tobin, like I said, was the darling of the tournament. You know, obviously his Fairleigh Dickinson, the small school, an attorney, taking down Purdue and all that, and that's benefited him most because now he's taking over Patino at Iona. So what does that mean for Tobin to go to Iona?
Man, talk about capitalizing on the moment. They
perfect timing, and we see this a lot. Like every term, it feels like a lower seed, and then that coach benefits and all that. So like some of these it matters for a lot of people, even if you're 15, whatever. Like it matters for all that. So big congrats to Tobin.
And even with that, like, bro, EU was not supposed to be in the tournament. They did not win the NEC.
Yeah, they weren't even supposed to. If it wasn't for the stupid rule where Merrimack wasn't allowed to, because what is it, like within the first 4 years you're not allowed, which
stupid.
Which it's stupid. But if you're Tobin, you're like, thank you. You know, it's like it's still a stupid rule, but for your Tobin, like I'm not even talked about if this doesn't happen. So like sometimes the stupid things lead to great things for people. Like it's just crazy how that works. Like Merrimack's probably sick to their stomach because it's like maybe that could have been us, or maybe just we're just happy that. And if you're Purdue, you're probably like, damn, maybe we should wish it was Merrimack, you know, and all that. But like, good for him though. Like, he benefited from a situation that shouldn't be. Like, who cares if they're, you know, if you're for new school, like if you're the best team in the conference, you win it, should be able. But if you're Tobin, you're happy because this just changed your whole life.
And he took it and ran with it. I respect it. He came out and said after they beat, I believe they beat Southeast Missouri State in the first four. He came out and said right after, like after watching the Purdue tape, I like our chances against this team. And some people thought he was crazy as hell for saying that, but clearly he knew exactly what he was doing. And you gotta respect it. Like most of these dudes get here because of their confidence, and he clearly has that. And so Iona's a pretty good job. He should do fine there. And I think eventually he'll probably just continue to work his way up and maybe even get a high major job one day. So that's a good look. You lose one of the all-time great coaches in the sport, and you go to Tobin Anderson, who's on a hot streak right now. So good for Iona.
That's good for Iona. I mean, to go from Rick Pitino, right, which is you don't get an opportunity to get a Rick Pitino. Like doesn't happen for Iona or any school of that caliber, of that level. And then you go from that, then you go from one of the hottest coaches in the country in Tobin. You know, yeah, it sucks losing Pitino, but I got Tobin, a coach that you know is going to be there for potentially for a little bit. You know, that's good for Iona and good for Tobin for Capital. I mean, his story is pretty cool, and he got energy, man. He just his team vibes with him and all that. I think that's just, you know, that's dope. Like you said, we're going to beat Purdue. Like that wasn't like he said it. No, we heard like we're going to beat them. They haven't seen what we've done. They don't know what's gonna happen. And they did exactly what they said. They got on their ass. They got on Purdue's ass. And I forgot who said it. I think it was Jay Billis. I think Jay Billis said it. He's like, they're gonna see something for Fairleigh Dickinson that they haven't seen all year. He's like, they're gonna get on him, and I want to see how Purdue's guards handle that. And we saw what happened. The guards can handle it.
Shout out to FDU, man. Again, you lose your head coach, but that's a brief run that'll never be forgotten because
Jersey,
like you said, again, Jersey strikes 2 for 2, or 3 for 3 now. Princeton's in the Sweet 16.
Princeton.
Last year St. Peter's. Of course, you got Javon Quinley for Alabama, but again, it won't be a forgotten run by any stretch of the imagination. Hell of a run. Y'all did it in a great way, and shoot, they were this close to making it to the Sweet 16. They were right there at the end of that game for FAU. So shout out to Fairleigh Dickinson, man.
They competed in that game. So that was a great good for Tobin. Happy for him. So we won't get into depth to Chris Beard and all that. We talked about him a little bit, and Adrian Autry at Syracuse and all that. Got some good recruits. Got some good with JJ Starlin, and we'll talk about that when we got our transfer portal and that's where we're going to go next, the transfer portal. We talked about this last week, but we talked more about with the transfer portal, like how how much people overreact to it and all that, and how people think it hurting the game and all that. We didn't get into like some of the moves and all that, and we've seen some moves in the transfer portal, and that we feel like are going to be some really impactful moves. JJ Starlin going from Notre Dame to Syracuse. And if Judah Mintz comes back, could that be something? So are there any other transfer portal moves that really and we still got a lot of more time before some more guys make some names and all that. We got plenty of guys who are still trying to figure out where they go. But there are any other names that you feel like could be an impact, as they head to their next school?
It was one that surprised me today was, I don't know if he's going to be a high impact just because he was already in a great situation for himself, but I seen that Kerr Kriisa is in the transfer portal. The starting point guard of Arizona the past few years. Of course, they had a terrible exit, losing to Princeton in the first round. And I'm not a big fan of his shot selection. I think Kylan Boswell personally was the better point guard. And if Tommy Lloyd probably would have played him, they'd probably still be dancing right now as we speak. But that's a huge addition. I don't know where he goes. He looks like a Gonzaga player. He could end up in a few different scenarios, so we'll see how that goes. I'd say my favorite player right now is probably two. Taron Armstrong, a name that a lot of people don't really know out of UC Riverside. They just went D1 like a few years ago. They were a D2 for the longest, but
His teammate is going there too, who's nice too. I forgot his name.
Mhm.
I think his teammate. I forgot his teammate's name, but there's a nice combo there that can help a team next season for sure.
Hell of a point guard. I think majority of the West Coast programs, if you're UCLA, if you're Mick Cronin about to lose Tiger Campbell, you should look at trying to get Taron Armstrong. So he's going to be highly coveted. And then the last one is Eddie Lampkin, man, out of
Yes.
TCU. It sucks because they could have used him. And
I
again,
was just about to say he might have been the difference between them not being in the Sweet 16.
they were right there in that game against Gonzaga and just fell short. I don't know why, but Mike Miles didn't touch the ball like that towards the end of the game, which is mind-boggling to me. But Eddie Lampkin is a game changer. When he was healthy for this TCU team, he was a beast. He was one of the better big men in a Big 12 conference that doesn't really have a lot of big men, but he's a factor. And so sadly, he had some off the court things happen, losing family members, having a weird relationship with Coach Dixon. So I'm wishing him nothing but the best. But I think wherever he ends up is going to be a big move. But it's already a couple names out there. I'd say be patient for the week of the national championship game, that Monday that it usually starts, because that's when the floodgates just open up. Like right now, we're only seeing a little bit of transfers pop out, but once more and more teams start to lose, because it's going to be guys that are in the tournament still dancing right now that leave their current situation. And so that's going to be interesting to see. So I say those are probably the few names I watch out for right now.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more names that are definitely going to be serious. James White from Mississippi. I know you've been big on him, not getting enough playing time down there at Ole Miss. That's going to be an interesting name to see where he goes, because I feel like he gets in the right situation. We could see the James White that we feel like we should have saw at Ole Miss and all that. So that's going to be, very interesting to see where he goes. I had another name.
I got one for you too. Bobby Pettiford. He was at Kansas for the past few years. Shout out to all my people from the state of North Carolina, because they swore up and down to me that he was going to be like the next coming of John Wall. It's all love, but I think he could be an impact player wherever he goes. Kansas didn't really use him like that. I mean, they needed him, but they had Yesufu. Of course, they have DeJuan Harris, who just won the national championship last year. So I'll be intrigued to see where Bobby Pettiford ends up, because he is a player. Kansas was always kind of a weird fit for me personally.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking about. Kawasi Reeves.
That's a good one too.
He's someone that shows some flashes at Florida, right? They've been a kind of a mess a little bit of late and all that, but he's someone, we talked about Georgia Hoopers. He's a Georgia Hooper. He's someone that I feel like can really help a team next year for sure. Obviously, we talk about Sky Clark, Louisville, going to Louisville and Louisville.
Getting some guys.
They're getting some guys.
Evans. Shout out to Louisville, man. KP working.
He working. I think he has a top 10 class right now. I think he's top 10 right now.
Curtis Williams coming in, Caleb Glenn, amongst a few others.
We knew he had to hit transfer portal. We knew he had to do that, get some recruits, and it's Louisville at the end of the day. It's Louisville. 10 years ago, they were national champions. But he's got a nice class coming in this year, along with Sky Clark. This thing could get turned around, and he's added size. They needed size and all that. He's added some size in this class, and potentially some home runs in next year's class. Okay, KP doing his thing. This was a bad year, and it was probably way worse than he ever anticipated. But good for him. I'm happy. Feels like Louisville's gonna be able to do something, and all that. But also with transfer portal, and we talked about this before the show. And like I said, last week we talked about transfer portal as far as reactions from people, because it seems like we hear transfer portal and people freak out when they hear that, how bad it is and all that. And we talked about that last. But the impact it's going to make on the high school level is something that not a lot of people talk about. And I heard someone talk about this, and I was like, that's a really good thing. That's a really good thing to bring up. And how do you feel about how this is going to impact kids at the high school level? Because we're seeing there's a lot of kids who were 5 stars just last year who are going to be entering, and probably more as the tournament, starts to end, that we're going to see some more names. But like we said, Sky Clark was a top rated. JJ Starlin, There's a lot of guys who would do top tier, and you're going to be able to get that talent in the transfer portal. So you don't have to waste that trying to get an unproven commodity in high school. I can get JJ Star and Sky Clark. I know they can hoop.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel like this affects the high school kids now? Because like you mentioned, like possibly kids might commit quicker than we usually see names. And if you look at the 24/7 on 3 whatever, you usually see a lot more kids not with their names. You hear them waiting longer, waiting until a little bit later in the school year. Now we're seeing kids. It's kind of quick. So how do you feel like the transfer portal and the talent that's going in transfer? How do you feel like it's going to affect how schools recruit high school kids?
It's going to be a trickle-down effect, sadly. There's going to be some dudes that don't get opportunities that they should coming out of high school, and it sucks, but, I mean, that's just the game right now. I hate to say it. I personally wouldn't want to play it. Like, certain coaches, they need to go get fresh new blood. You know what I'm saying? Don't try and go get – because we've seen multiple instances where transfers didn't work out. With all due respect, Matthew Mayer didn't work out at Illinois.
Disaster, yeah.
And I don't even want to just point him out because it's a whole bunch out there, but – it's not a guarantee. Like, you can recruit these dudes. And Matthew Mayer, he was a one-off because he came from winning a national championship. But it's some dudes that come from lower levels that go to the Power 5, Power 6, whatever you want to call it, and their game doesn't translate. Or if it does, like Tyson Walker, it took him a whole year to get acclimated. And so you got to really be smart. You got to play your cards right. Again, certain coaches should. If you're trying to be really good next year, then maybe, you got to go in that transfer portal and get some experience. Or also, too, like, it could be a freshman. Like, I mean, this is a 1%er, but you could potentially get a Brandon Miller that could completely change the trajectory of your program. And again, that's a 1% of 1% of 1%. So don't take my word too heavy on that. But it's all about prioritizing what you need. If I'm Brad Underwood, looking at what happened this year, I'm going to be way more selective when it comes to looking at transfers, because he came out for most of the season saying that Terrence Shannon is not the leader I thought he would be. And you could say that, but that's also on you for not doing your due diligence, because you're supposed to know that stuff. You're recruiting these dudes. You're supposed to know all the things you're supposed to know about these guys. It's your roster. You have complete control of your roster now. So to me, it's just about preference. Like, certain guys, if you're trying to win ASAP, do it. Fine. But you look at a team like Florida Atlantic, all those guys were recruited there as freshmen. And they're probably, once their season ends, they're probably going to all get offers to go high major, but they did it right. Dusty May did it right. He got guys that he knew he could develop, and they're turning into hella good players right now. And now they're in the schools, I think, first Sweet 16 of all time. So it's all about preference, man. Some guys, like I said, some guys need to hit the transfer portal. Some guys need to offer recruits out of high school. And if you're a top tier high school recruit, like, speaking for Michigan State, Jeremy Fears, who's my favorite player in our class this upcoming year.
He's nice.
He committed during his junior year of January of last year. And he's smart for that, bro. If you have a good indication of where you want to go, don't waste your time trying to take official visits and things like that. Like, you should use your visits. Go take the
use them up.
Yeah, for sure. But if you know where you want to go, keep it in the back of your mind and commit as soon as you feel like it. And so, again, man, I can't overstate. It's just preference. If you're a coach, play your cards right, because you could get a transfer that misses, and you could pass up on a high school kid that could be a star. So you just gotta be on your toes more than ever now.
Yep, and it is your situation, as a coach too. Like, if you're a new coach, like just talk about Kenny Payne, like, you might have to hit the transfer portal just to get the ball rolling. Just and then everyone comes in. After that, you can get the 4 or 5 star top flight, recruits. If you're like Duke or someone, Kentucky, you're going to get those 5 stars. So, and it's a matter of just which one you want, right? You could pick, it's the pick of the litter and that. So it all depends on this. And then obviously there's lower tier schools that you're not going to, you still got to go through a portal, or you got to get those, but it all depends on the situation and all that and how that. But, there's going to be times where even if you are getting the 5 stars, they're young. You got to get some of these, these upperclassmen to fill in. So you have some type of, because to win the championship, you need some vets. And that's why, like, with Michigan State, you're always going to be, because you're always going to have them vets. Like, the up and downs of the season is what, like, it's tournament time. You can rely on them. You're going to trust them. Like, for instance, Duke, Tennessee, like, I was confident that Duke was going to be able to come out with the W now.
Me too.
But Tennessee and how down have we been on Tennessee and Coach Barnes all season? Because like they should be better. You know, they got the perfect balance. Some young freshmen, you know, with Phillips and all that, and Ziegler and all the upperclassmen, Vescovi, all that, and up and down all season. And then what happens to him? You see them and they're like, whoa. Even in the first round, they almost lost. And then they got up for the Duke game. They got up for the Duke game. You saw that experience there. That's like, oh, okay. That's you know, that they finally came when it mattered most and all that, and they were able to do their thing. But like it's all about situation and all that. It's all about your situation and all, and you just gotta understand. You just gotta have a feeling like what fits, and that's the part of coaching, right? To me, it's so much more than just on the court. It's like being a college coach, you have to know what fits. And we thought Illinois, like they had the talent, right? Talent-wise, they're a top 15 team in the country, maybe even top 10 of pure talent. Of all the talent they have, they should have been a Sweet 16 team.
Yes,
but they just didn't gel, and that's your job as a coach, Coach Underwood, to make sure that works. And you didn't get the right pieces together. Sky Clark leaves. You and May are going at it. Shannon is questioning his leadership and all that, and it's just like, whoa, this is disaster. It shouldn't be a disaster. You should be a Sweet 16 team, but it just didn't happen. Because then you see the situation with Arkansas, they had injuries and all that, and they're in the Sweet 16. you know, similar, not similar, but like up and down season and all that, and they figured it out because Muss just knew how to get everyone going. So it's it's all like we mentioned, we're gonna see a lot more kids pick the schools a lot more quicker. Because if you don't, you wait it out. Coach is gonna get that Sky Clark. Like, oh, he don't like his situation. I'm gonna go get him. I know he could hoop. I've seen it at the college level, at a high, in the Big 10, ACC, Big 12, SEC. I'm gonna just get that. I know that works, and he's a freshman, and he might be younger than some of the freshmen coming in. I think Mike Miles is younger than, almost as young as Brandon Miller, something like that. Yeah, something crazy like that. Like he's a junior or a sophomore junior. Yep. Like it's so like you have to look at the age discrepancy too. Like that's a real thing too. Like so, but it's all situation based.
And I want to say this too real quickly. Look at Ed Cooley this year. You brought in Noah Locke from Louisville. You brought in Devin Carter from South Carolina. You brought in Bryce Hopkins from Kentucky. You brought in Ed Croswell, I believe, from LaSalle, or Clifton Moore from LaSalle. Like Ed Cooley knows how to do it. So for his case this year, because Georgetown's been so bad and they're dying to win, you got to fill this roster up with transfers and try and just compete this year. You don't have to necessarily be at the top of the Big East. You want to be somewhere in the middle of the pack to where it's like you're a borderline NCAA tournament team. And so, like I said, man, it just comes down to preference and what the school has when it comes to expectation-wise and what you as a coach have for yourself expectations-wise.
Yeah, I think Cooley's going to kill it in the portal. We already hear rumblings about some names and all that, and I think Pitino too can do something. So the coaches and all that, so who's the coach? What's the school's trajectory and all that matters. But definitely going to see more high school kids figure out their situation a little more quicker for sure. Now that we're going to see some top tier names in the transfer portal, and that's going to be a thing that we're going to see a lot. But that's definitely going to be a thing. But let's get into it. March Madness.
Yes, sir.
Sweet 16. We got games starting tomorrow. I know you're going to be hyped. You're the first game of the Sweet 16. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. You got K-State. We're going against Marquise Noel. The dynamic point guard, New York City's finest. That's literally his Instagram name, too. That's not even just saying that. Yep. Yeah, he Mr. New York City, yeah. And Keontae Johnson and all that. How do you feeling, Kev, about this matchup?
I'm excited, and honestly, I think we're gonna win. Like I'm not even just saying that being a Michigan State fan. I just look at it like, first of all, our defense is humming at the right time. This is the best defense we've played all season long. We held Boogie Ellis to a struggle game. Same thing with Tyler Kolek, who was the player of the year in the Big East. And when I look at it, the thing about this Kansas State team is they're going to have the two best players, right? That's always going to give you a shot. You're going to have Marquise Noel, he's going to be the best player on the floor, and Keontae Johnson. Those two guys, as much as I love my team, I'm just being honest, those two guys are better when it comes to just being star players, right?
Yep.
The difference is, though, they're an okay rebounding team. We are too, but we're a better rebounding team. And defensively, we're way better than them. And offensively, we should be able to exploit mismatches. And they do have a tendency to turn over the ball just because Marquise Noel has the ball in his hand so much that when you have the ball in your hand for 30-something minutes, you're going to turn over the ball. That's just science.
He's 5'8" too.
He's a dog. Don't get
he's
it
a dog. No, he made some incredible passes the last game.
When you're Steph Curry, you have the ball game, you're going to have turnovers, right?
Exactly.
And so I just like us because everybody keeps talking about like Marquise Noel is the next Kemba, which could possibly quite happen. I think he's been dying to get this chance to play Madison Square Garden. Don't get it twisted. If he goes off for 30 tomorrow, I would not be surprised whatsoever. But on the flip side of that, nobody's talking too much about Tyson Walker also being from New York. And he went to Christ the King. Where's he from? Long Island. Yep. And Tyson Walker is that dude. I think he had 23, if I'm not mistaken, against Marquette. And he literally just willed us home. Izzo put the ball in his hands and just said, go get us a bucket. And every time we needed it, he came through for us. And so that's going to be a hell of a matchup. But I just think, man, like, if you could just tire Marquise Noel out, and obviously that's so much more easier said than done. But when I say tire him out, I don't just mean defending him. I mean on the other end of the floor, whoever he's guarding, go at him. Make him work. Make him have to defend. Get him in foul trouble. Because if you do that, automatically you cut the head off the snake. And so I'm looking at it like I think Izzo's going to have another masterclass of a game plan. He did this past weekend, and I really love our chances, man. I just do. And you guys know we've been huge fans of Kansas State this entire season. Yeah. Coach Tang and his staff have done a wonderful job. Naquan Tomlin's from New York as well. Ish Massoud is from New York as well. He's a hell of a shooter. Like, they have players, but I just think the way that we're playing right now, like, people aren't even talking about it, but Kentucky had a chance to win that game last weekend. Kentucky was right there all the way towards the end, but the difference was Jacob Toppin and Antonio Reeves shot terribly, and Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson, and Ish Massoud, they hit some big-time threes down the stretch. And so I'm just looking at, like, if they can't guard, if they're not willing to sit in a stance and really force turnovers because they don't do a good job of doing that, I love our chances. And I really think we're going to win, go to Elite Eight, and hopefully get a chance and go to the Final Four.
It's good. It's going to be – this one's – to me is the one I still can't figure out which way I'm going. It's a very evenly matchup. I think it's going to come down to your guards. AJ Hoggard is a dog.
Yep.
I don't care what anyone says about him. He's just a dog. It's going to come down to your guard. It's going to come Akins, Walker. I think if those three guards, if you tell me they shoot the ball well and all that, it's probably going to get you a W. So it's going to come down to your guard play and all that. But Kansas State, man.
Yeah.
I like Kansas State a lot. It's just I like their balance and all that. Jerome Tang is just he's doing his thing. It's tough. Like you said, Noel Johnson, they got it. And Tomlin is someone who's been rising on me. Liked him for a little bit. He's definitely this one's tough. But if you're gonna put me on a spot, Kev, I know who you rocking with. Pull me on a spot. I gotta go Izzo. I gotta go Izzo in Michigan State. It's just he's the best coach in this tournament.
I want to say real quick.
I saw a list that had him third. Nah, he's the best coach in this.
Oh yeah, I seen that. He's the
best coach in this.
That was. Well, I want to say this real quick too, and then we can move on to the next one. Is that another reason why I'm very excited for this is because the last time we played at MSG, we shot terribly. We played against Rutgers, and it was a terrible performance. It was terrible off. It was good. We just shot terribly. And even last week, we shot 2 of 16 and still beat Marquette from the three-point line. So we have not shot the ball well the entire tournament so far. I think this game tomorrow, that changes.
Neither Michigan State. Michigan State didn't shoot the three ball well too. So it's if it's going to come, if your guards play well and you were able to hit shots, Hauser hit some threes and all that, that's going to give you an opportunity to win this game. So it's going to be a good one. That might be the one that's the closest. where it's going to be the last few minutes of that game where it's going to be dictated. So that's going to be a good one for sure. All right. Let's go to the next. What is it? It's UConn, Arkansas, right? UConn, Arkansas.
Whew.
That's going to be fun. Obviously, we know Arkansas, a team that's probably not, they're not really an 8 seed. They're higher and all that, but Musk got them boys going. And that's without his best players even hoping. Anthony Black hasn't played great. Nick Smith's come back from the injury. He's still trying to figure things out and all that. So and UConn is just, Sonogo and, they are, Hawkins, they got their Jackson, they got a bunch of dudes that can just really just kill you and all that. So what are we feeling about UConn and the Arkansas? Because this could be a shootout. This could be a shootout.
I'm rolling with the Hogs, man. Y'all know how I feel about the Hogs.
Okay.
Y'all know how I feel about the Must Bus. I think whenever Izzo retires, you can take the Mr. March nickname and give it to Muss. I'm saying that right here on the record. Like that's how confident he's been to back Sweet 16s, and those first 2 ones were Elite 8. So I'm banking on him to get back to Elite 8 because Danny Hurley hasn't been there before. These are Danny Hurley's first 2 tournament wins at UConn this season. So with that, the reason that I'm taking the Hogs is because what we touched on in one of our earliest episodes is that UConn's lack of point guard play scares me. That's what it comes down to. As much as I like Tristan Newton, Danny Hurley, 1, doesn't give him the ball that much. 2, he's just not that athletic with the rock in his hands or dynamic at that. He's a good player. I'm not going to sit here and downplay him. But because of that, you're looking at another team that has Anthony Black. And Anthony Black, for him to take over a game, he doesn't need to score. Anthony Black is one of those dudes where he can dime you up. He can get steals. He going to make them hustle plays to win the game. And the thing that I like about the most is that 2 things when it comes to UConn's best players. You have Adama Sanogo, who we all can admit has been a beast this year, right?
Monster.
Arkansas has 3 bodies to throw at him. Between the Mitchell twins, who have both been playing well, and Jalen Graham off the bench, that's 15 fouls for Sanogo right there by itself. And then on top of that, when it comes to Jordan Hawkins, who's been playing phenomenal, I know you've been hearing a lot about him when it comes to NBA draft circles and things like that. As good as he is when it comes to running off and just running off pin downs and being ready to catch and shoot, if you make him dribble the ball, he's not comfortable doing that.
He's not. I noticed that he doesn't. He's not.
And Arkansas has the athletes to really make you second guess yourself. Muss is more than likely. Exactly. Muss is going to put Jordan Walsh on him. And let's be honest, I don't think Jordan Hawkins has seen a defender as good as Jordan Walsh all season.
No, that's going to be key because Walsh. I don't know what Walsh's upside is as an offensive player. He can handle a little bit and all that, but I don't know about his shooting. But I know that man can guard. Man, he's gonna lock you. He's gonna lock up your best perimeter player. And if I'm Muss, I'm like, hey, Jordan, that's it. I don't care if you don't need to get a bucket. Stop that man. Because if you stop him, you're going to be – and that's what happened to UConn in the Big East tournament. Hawkins had like 4 points and they lost.
Yep.
You stop him. You stop him the whole engine.
That's the whole snake right there.
Exactly.
And
so
with that is that I know I'll talk about it now, but we haven't even touched on Arkansas's offense, and I'm pretty sure Danny Hurley is going to just say sag off and make them shoot because we all know they're not a good shooting team. But if y'all watched that Kansas game, which I'm pretty sure most of y'all did, Devontae Devo Davis, I've been trying to tell people, is one of the most important players on this team. Why? Experience. Every Elite 8 appearance / Sweet 16 this year, Devontae Devo Davis has been on each one of those teams. His freshman year was with Moses Moody, Last year was, of course, with JD Notae and Jalen Williams. And now this year, he's pretty much the captain of the team. And he's one of the few guys on this roster next to like Ricky Council that can knock down shots. And on top of that, Nick Smith has only scored 6 points in this tournament so far, ladies and gentlemen.
He didn't even score last game.
I think it's a chance that's
going to end. Eventually, right? It's got to.
And then on top of that, too, is that I give Muss a lot of credit because he pretty much benched Nick Smith in the second half of that Kansas game. Most coaches that have a lottery pick are not doing that. They don't have the balls or courage to do that. And Muss did it because he just said, like, you're not giving us the best chance to win. And so Nick Smith, he's going to have to get some easier buckets and not dribble the ball as much.
They need him. No, they need him.
Yeah, they need him.
They need him to do something because they're going to need it because, like I said, they're not a team that's going to score from the perimeter. So they got to be able to get as many buckets. I know it's going to be tough for Sonogo there, but they got to get as many buckets, within the free throw line. That's how they're gonna have to win this game. Because obviously we know they can't shoot from the perimeter, but they got guys who can get buckets though.
Mm-hmm.
Council could get you a bucket. Davis could get you a bucket. Smith
Yep.
can get you a bucket. Anthony Black could get you a bucket. And even Jordan Walsh had 10 points last game. So, like, if everyone, they guys can get to the basket. They may not be able to shoot, but they're a different team that guys, they could take dudes off the dribble. That's different.
And the last point I'll make is that if I'm just calling a spade, Kansas's defense is better than UConn's this year.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying too. Like, it's not like UConn's got a bunch of the perimeter, or Ron Artest out there. Like,
they got a couple, but not like Kansas.
But not like Kansas though. Like,
no.
So this is a matchup that's going to be intriguing. Like you said, we're not going to see a lot of threes and all that, but it still to me could be a high scoring game because they got a lot of guys that can get buckets in this game. And the defense is going to be key. It stops. If we're seeing that, UConn's just killing it from the perimeter, it could be tough for Arkansas because they're not going to be able to have the firepower to come back. So, Jordan, if they contain, if we see Jordan Hawkins with 4 points and all that, then it might be an Arkansas 10+ win and all that. So this is going to be a fun matchup. So, were you going with Muss with the win?
Yes, sir.
I'm not doubting that, man. I'm going with Muss. Going with my boy. I have them in the Final Four. So we're going with Muss. We're going with Muss advancing and Arkansas advancing to the Elite Eight. All right. Next matchup, we got Gonzaga UCLA.
Whew, another good one.
We just forget about Gonzaga. Mm-hmm. We did. The whole country's forgot about Gonzaga. Right. We know their track record, and they get to, they always break people's hearts because it's like they're the one school that's dominated and they're not even in a power conference and all that, doing their thing. And this year we just assume, a couple losses early on, it's just gonna be same old Gonzaga. And now they're in a matchup with UCLA. UCLA's got some injuries. Obviously, Jalen Clark's out. So what we feeling right here? Drew Timme found, masterpiece here and all that. It's gonna be interesting to see. What Tiger Campbell does, Jaime. What Jaime's gonna do and all that. Mick Cronin, what is Mick Cronin gonna do against the Zags? What we got here? What we feeling?
I'm rocking with the Bruins, and I do have I would not be surprised if Gonzaga were able to pull this game out because they're more than capable of doing it behind the back of Drew Timme and guys like Julian Strawther, amongst others, Anton Watson. But the reason I'm picking the Bruins, honestly, I'll give my breakdown on it in a second, but it's mostly just because of the way UCLA lost to Gonzaga in the 2021 Final Four. When Jalen Suggs hit that game winner, I know that was a dagger to the heart for a lot of UCLA fans, and I think that's going to be motivation for this team. And of course, it wasn't that many guys from that UCLA team on this current one, but David Singleton was there, Tiger Campbell was there, Jaime Jaquez was there, amongst probably a couple others. They're going to remember that, and that's probably sitting on the back of their minds. And so I'm rolling with them too, just because they can slow down the game. And Gonzaga wants to get out and run, and Gonzaga can play multiple tempos too. Don't get it twisted, but Tiger Campbell, to me, is going to be the best guard on the floor, by a comfortable margin, and a guy that's been there before. Gonzaga's guards have not been there before. Jalen Suggs has, but, obviously Jalen Suggs in the NBA. Nolan Hickman has not been there. All these other guys have not been there. So, to me, I think they have a sizable mismatch when it comes to that. And then on top of that, I'm not going to sit here and say that Drew Timme is going to get locked up because you're going to sound stupid for saying that because Drew Timme is going to get his buckets regardless. But Adem Bona is a great matchup to throw on Drew Timme. If you're Mick Cronin, all you need to do is just tell Adem Bona, stay disciplined, don't leave your feet. That's all you need to tell him. Don't jump for any pump fakes. Just stay on your feet, wall up, use your verticality, and you're going to be fine. He's going to make a few tough ones, but they're going to be hard-earned, and they're not going to be a reliable offense for Gonzaga to win this game. So I'm rocking with the Bruins. I think their defense is much more tougher than Gonzaga's, and I like them to win this game in Vegas, man.
This is tough. This is another tough one. Gonzaga doesn't play defense. So if you're UCLA and you want to get cooking again, because they didn't score a lot of points against Northwestern. That was a tough battle right there. This is the game to do it, and it seems like we're seeing the Amari Bailey that we saw at Sierra King. It finally seems like we get, and at the best time too, where they need him best. So they may be able, with him, Bona, and Jaquez, they may be able to go off against this defense because they don't play Gonzaga don't play defense. But Gonzaga can score. That's the thing. And will Gonzaga just puts too much pressure on UCLA that it's just too much for them, especially with all the injuries and all that. If we had Jalen Clark, it would be different. Maybe we were talking different because at least they can have one guy that can lock up. But I think I'm going to go Gonzaga because I feel like they got too many weapons that are just gonna hit them, just slice and dice them. So I'm going to go with Gonzaga with Julian Strother, Salas, obviously Drew Timme and all that. I just think it's too much for UCLA. So I'm going to go with the Zags, and they advance to Elite Eight, and UCLA does not get revenge. But that I think that is a big thing, though, because that hurt. That definitely hurt. Yep. But I just think with all the firepower Gonzaga has, Malachi, Anton, it's just going to be too much for the Bruins, and it sucks because if they were healthy, I think this UCLA team could definitely beat them and all. But injuries at the worst time, I'm going to go to Zags with the W, advancing to the Elite Eight. So we went through that. Let's see what else we got. Let's go Texas Xavier. That's the Friday game. This is another one that's tough to figure out. Xavier could light it up too. I have Texas going to Final Four. So how are we feeling about this?
I'm with you. Honestly, I honestly think this is probably the one game that might be a blowout. Like, if any game has a chance, I think this and Florida Atlantic, Tennessee have a chance to be blowouts. But I look at it like, let's be honest, Xavier probably shouldn't even be here. They should have lost that first-round game to Kennesaw State. They then went on and beat a Pitt team that was kind of rolling. They won a couple games to get to that point. But the thing with Xavier is that we've been talking about Sule Boom. He's been amazing, but he has not been playing good in the NCAA tournament so far. And for it to be cold, and then all of a sudden you're going to play against a Texas team that's one of the best defensive teams in the country, not just because of their team defense, but because they're individual defenders like a Timmy Allen who put Jalen Pickett in the torture chamber this past weekend. I can't, what are they going to do? Who are they going to go to? If Sule Boom is not scoring, yes, I'm a big Kobe Jones fan. I've been saying he's an NBA player since he was in high school, and I'm glad he's finally getting his love and recognition. But he by himself is not going to be able to get the job done. You're going to need Jerome Hunter to step up. You're going to need Jack Nungy to step up. You're going to need other guys to step up. Desmond Claude. But to me, I just think this is a bad matchup for them. Texas just has better athletes. Unless Marcus Carr is just jacking up terrible shots, which I don't think is the case, then I like Texas' front court more. Xavier probably has the edge when it comes to I'll be honest, I don't think Xavier has any edge in this game. The only edge they might have is coaching. That's it.
And I was going to bring that up. Is that going to be a factor? Because, Rodney Terry's done a solid job so far, but this is the tournament and all that. This is a different animal and all that. Do we trust him? Because if Chris Beard's here, maybe like I said, Texas might be the number one seed and all that, and it might be a whole different tournament. Do we trust him? I mean, yeah, Xavier should have lost to Kennesaw State. That was one of my upsets that I thought was going to happen, and it almost did. It might have happened. It should have happened. Yeah. And the Pitt game, that was a game for a little bit. So that's the thing. Well, do we trust the coaching? Do you think coaching is going to be the ultimate X factor in this game?
I'm going to say no. I think potentially, of course, it can be, but I just think roster-wise, Texas is just a better team. If they just stick to what they're doing, Dylan Dessou is the fourth or fifth option on this team. He had 27 in that game versus Penn State. And that's the thing. I don't want to give Chris Beard too much love, but you got to give him credit when it comes to the way he built this roster. When we were just talking about transfers, he didn't just pick the average transfer. Most of these guys were intricate pieces to their last school.
Yeah, he did.
Christian Bishop was the second best player at Creighton at the time with Marcus Zagorowski. Marcus Carr was a star at Minnesota previously. Serge Jabari Rice was one of the better players at New Mexico State. the list goes on. You know what I'm saying? Like these are Dylan Dessou was one of the better players at Vanderbilt. So like he recruited like former star guys from their previous schools, and now they've been asked from Rodney Terry and Chris Beard to gel together, figure it out, and they're playing some of their best basketball right now. They won the Big 12 tournament for a reason. So I'm thinking Texas, they should win by double digits, in my opinion.
They should, but they almost lost.
They did.
Dylan Dessou doesn't almost drop 30. Like,
yeah.
Like you needed every single bucket of Dylan, because if he doesn't do that, if he gets 20, they lose.
Penn State's a tough matchup, though.
It is a tough matchup and all, but I don't know how much emphasis I should put on that game.
Yeah,
because it's a completely different opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at that as like, like they needed everything from Dylan Dessou to win that game versus Penn State, because everyone else kind of hit and miss, but he wasn't. And sometimes, maybe sometimes you just need a guy to take over. Look at the Tennessee. What's homeboy's name that took over? He had what 27 Matuza. Sometimes you just need a guy to just take over, and that's the difference and all that. And we know one guy that can take over in college that can put you over. So maybe that's just because of that. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm gonna go Texas too. I had them in the Final Four. I'm gonna go with Texas beating Xavier. I think it's closer. I don't know if it's gonna be a blowout though. I think it'll be closer.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be closer than people think, but I'm gonna go Texas with W. Creighton versus Princeton. Blowout. Yeah, Creighton. I think Creighton going wallop Princeton. I know the run. Princeton's been great. Who they beat Missouri last game? They beat them by 15.
Yep,
they made them look silly. Then obviously they beat Arizona. I think Creighton they just all right. No, y'all ain't nah.
I'm hoping so. I mean, they haven't been.
I could be wrong. Yeah. I thought Indiana was going to win by 10 plus against Miami, and then Indiana lost by 15 or whatever. So I could be wrong, but I don't know. I think Creighton's just flowing right now.
Yeah,
and
they should handle business.
I don't think Princeton has enough dogs to be able to handle Creighton right now. So that's my opinion. I think this is an easy 10-point dub for Creighton, but I could be wrong.
It should be in all theory, but I'll just say I mean, you got to give Princeton credit, right? They beat
major credit.
You just did, but the only concern I have is that Creighton they haven't played necessarily their brand of basketball to get here, meaning that, again, we all know they love to move the ball, they love to knock down 3-point shots, they run amazing actions to free up their shooters, but they needed a 30-piece out of Ryan Kalkbrenner to beat NC State, and then they had a 30-piece from Ryan Nembhard to beat Baylor. So this is if they're gonna make a run to the Final Four,
and they haven't shot the 3 ball. They're been abysmal from 3.
And Princeton's not a bad defensive team, ladies and gentlemen. So if Creighton really wants to go on a real even more of a run than right now, this game would be the one to get right and get in a row. I think if they win, they'd have to play Alabama. So they got to get right in this game. And I agree with you. I think Creighton's gonna win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Princeton kept it close either.
Yeah, I just think their backcourt, with Alexander and Nembhard, they're just rolling right now, and I think that's going to be too much for Princeton, right? But got to give Princeton credit; they've had a tremendous run this season. But I just think, I don't know, Creighton just got the favor. It feels like everything's just going their way right now. I think they take care of business versus Princeton. I think Kalkbrenner is going to have a 30-piece 10 double. I'm probably going to be wrong, and Princeton wins by 10, but I'm feeling good. I'm going to Creighton. I'm even going to bet that too. So it's how confident. That's my lock of the week. It's Creighton in the points. So I got Creighton. We both got Creighton going on and winning. Tennessee FAU.
Whew.
Tennessee FAU. We saw what Tennessee did to my Blue Devils. They put them in they locked them up. They put them in the cell. They just absolutely nobody was able to do anything. That was a masterpiece by Rick Barnes. You hate this, but that was a masterpiece. He coached a masterpiece. He took advantage of the youngin, and did his thing and all that. So, but they're going against Dusty May and his boys. FAU's coming in, off the win against Fairleigh Dickinson. They're probably like, yo, we didn't expect to be playing a 16th seed. We were the underdogs. Nobody was believing in us. That we thought they would put Memphis, and Fairleigh Dickinson. So their road so far has been solid, but. Who we got? FAU, great season. I think only 3 losses this season, right? Dusty,
30 wins.
30 wins. Looks like Dusty's going to be there for another year. He was a name that we heard, he'll probably be there for another year. But Tennessee, they struggled in the first round, but obviously so did Duke. So Tennessee, FAU, we got. And that's
That's
the
what I was
Thursday
saying.
game. I should have had that early, but I didn't see that. This Thursday game, so
Yeah, you
my bad
good.
for missing out.
That's the thing, man. It's like because of Duke's youth, it's hard to put so much stock into Tennessee because
That's
again,
the real thing.
we just mentioned Kamau had, with all due respect, he had an out of body experience.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they ain't gonna happen. It can't happen again, right? They needed all that, like most of that, for especially late, because he was unconscious every time he shot. I think he went 7 of 9 from 3. Like, God, I'm still mad at that we let that happen.
And that's the thing too, is that they played against Memphis in the first round. That was one of the better games of the entire tournament, by the way.
That was a great game.
Out to Penny, that's a tough loss, but I like Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams offensively more than anybody on Tennessee to get a bucket, right? And so they didn't necessarily stop them, but because they have 9 bodies that they could go, so when Tennessee's beating them up, they can just rotate guys in. You got 2 bigs that can stretch the floor, and Golden and Rosado. Like, they're going to make Tennessee defense work a little bit more than it usually does. I'm going to take Tennessee just because that's the safe pick, but I would not at all be surprised if Florida Atlantic wins this game whatsoever. They have the shooters, they have the spacing. I think the defense it's okay. They haven't really seen too much physicality like that, but Memphis is a physical team too, and they survived that game. Obviously, Memphis isn't great at executing down the stretch, but we haven't really seen Tennessee have to do that much either. You know, like I said, they smacked y'all with all due respect, and then in the Memphis game, they did execute well, but they just, I don't know. So I'm gonna take Tennessee, but again, I would not be surprised if FAU wins this game. I would not at all.
Difference is, like you said, Duke youth really showed up in that game. They look like a team that, maybe we overvalued what they did in the AC tournament and all that, and how they would be against a veteran team that could play defense. And them not having shooters really hurt them. FAU, on the other hand, they can shoot the ball. And there's more spacing and all that. So I want to see how Tennessee handles that, a team that could shoot. And, because all they just did was clamp. When Filipowski got the ball, they just clamped him up and all. They knew he was dishing on no one. They were going to be able to shoot. This is going to be different when they play FAU. So I'm going with the upset. I'm going with the upset. I'm going with FAU. I think they're gonna shoot the 3 ball well, and like I said, Tennessee had an outer batter experience with I can't even say him. I don't even want to say his name. He pisses me off already. He's just making shots he's never made before. So I'm gonna go FAU with the W. I think they get the upset here, and Dusty advances to the Elite 8. So Kev got Tennessee. I got FAU. All right. Houston versus Miami.
This is the toughest one.
I've doubted Miami, and I've doubted Miami in this tournament, and I'm gonna doubt them again. I'm gonna do it again.
Oh man!
I know Wong played good. Wong played. I got a great game last game, but I could see Miami catching Houston. I could see this happening. I could definitely see this happen. What are you thinking? What are we feeling about this game?
This one's so tough, man, because it's like we've been saying this since the first episode. Guard play wins in college basketball, and especially in March Madness, right? If anybody in the country has the guards to match up with the Houston Cougars, it's the Miami Hurricanes. And give a lot of credit to Jim Larinaga. He's done a wonderful job of not only getting Miami back to this point, but honestly just holding down the ACC as Duke and North Carolina are going through coaching changes. But man, it's hard for me because I've been a Miami supporter. Y'all know, like, I love Isaiah Wong. I love Nigel Pack. What they did, they struggled in that first game against Drake. Isaiah Wong shot terribly, but Nigel Pack down the stretch just woke up and said, "Hey, our season's not going to end today. I'm gonna carry us." And he did.
And they locked up. DeVries did nothing.
Strapped.
Nothing. He was strapped. Yep.
And in the second game, they completely abused Indiana. And not only did they abuse them, I think they out-rebounded them by like 15.
I could not believe that's one of the biggest, like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I've been wrong a lot in this tournament. I was convinced Indiana was going to destroy them on the boards, and they're just going to be too much because we know Miami does not have size.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like the opposite. It couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It was like, yo, okay, I need to stop underestimating. And I think it just that was maybe the most impressive. Tennessee's win versus Duke is impressive, but Miami beating Indiana the way they did was one of the more impressive wins of the tournament.
And that's what I was trying to tell you earlier in the season with Norchad Omier, man. Like
Norchad, man,
he's only 6'6", but he literally goes down there and he boxes out like he's 6'11", and he goes and he grabs every rebound like it's his. And so, as much as I just gave him their praise, because I have Houston winning it all, I got to stick to my gut. I'm rolling with the Cougs, man. I just think Jamal Shed, Marcus Sasser, Tremont Mark, Jarris Walker, all the experience in the world. Like, again, but if anybody has the guard play to match up with Houston, it's Miami. But I'm rocking with Houston just because I picked them to win. And so I'm going to stick with my gut. And I just think Kelvin Sampson, he's due. He's due to get back to the Final Four. And, again, the Final Four is in Houston. So I think it's a storybook ending for the season for them. And I don't want to see Miami go home because I thoroughly enjoyed watching this team all season long. But I just think we just mentioned, like, they out-rebounded Indiana. But, again, if anybody could rebound with any great rebounding team in the country, it's Houston because they pound the glass. And they always win the rebounding battle. So I'm going to take the Cougs to win this one, man.
And this is the ultimate offense versus defense. You got Miami who's absolutely lighting it up, and then you got Houston who can lock you up. This is going to be tough, but like I said, it's guard play. It's going to come down to guard play for Miami. If Wong, Pack get it done, Norchad. But I'm going to go Houston. I'm going to go with the Cougs. I think they get it done. I think Miami's run, but Miami's doing great showing. No matter, just the last few years have been really good for Miami basketball, and Jim Larnaga is just a great coach. But I'm gonna go Houston. I'm gonna go with the Cougs beating Miami in a close one. It's gonna be a good game. All right, last one: Bama versus San Diego State. How do we feeling about this one? I got Bama in the Final Four, but if they could, San Diego State could lock you up too.
Exactly.
And Brandon Miller hasn't looked like Brandon Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of him, they haven't shot the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've been able to win, obviously, because they best number one team in the country, number one overall seed, and they just been better. But and then they haven't played Maryland and Corpus Christi.
Nothing.
But the San Diego State team is different.
Yep,
it is different. One of the better teams in the country defensively.
Yep.
And they put it to Furman. I know it's Furman, but they put it to Furman and College of Charleston. Under 60 points. So not playing the great comp, but they were able to two teams that were doing some things, shut them down. If there's a team that could do it now, they struggle shooting, and you're gonna need that versus Alabama. But Alabama hasn't looked crisp yet. So, how are we feeling about this one?
This is another tough one for me because the first episode we did, I tried to tell the world about San Diego State. I went back and listened to it because I had told myself, like, I believed in this team from the jump because shout out to my guy, Matt Bradley. He's been having a phenomenal senior season, but it's not just him. Like, they have a lot of seniors. Like, Lamont Butler, I don't think he's a senior, but I want to say a junior. Darion Trammell, Jaden Ledee. The list goes on, like a rope. Like, they just have guys. Nate Mensah, the center, holds it down, one of the best centers in the country, right? So if you're them, you kind of need to take the same game plan that I gave for UCLA, slow down the game. You're not going to be able to, you just said they struggle to score. You're not going to be able to score with Alabama. It's only a few teams that are capable of scoring with Alabama at their best. Honestly, at their best is probably nobody that can score with them, right? Yeah. So if you're them, you got to do two things. Kind of, again, I hate to say it, but kind of going back to what Tennessee did to you guys, you have to be the enforcer.
Smart.
You have to rough up the game. You got to muck it up. Because when a lot of times Alabama wins, they just win off of talent alone. But it gets to a point where, like, you got to really be a team. And I'm not saying that they're a bad team by any means, but San Diego State's going to test that. And so San Diego State, if you play slow, you play your pace, and of course, the most important thing, like you kind of just alluded to, you got to hit timely shots. Timely shots. You don't have to hit a lot of shots, but timely shots matter more than anything. So I'm gonna go with Alabama. With that being said, like obviously I know I just gave a lot of praise to San Diego State, but this is one of the matchups too where it's like Coach Dutcher can get the job done. Coach Dutcher is one of the most
Great coach.
underrated coaches
Great
in the
coach.
West Coast. You know, shout out to Walker. You saying he's the man with the plan. Like Dutcher's a hell of a coach. He recruited the Fab Five to Michigan. He was the heir to the throne under Steve Fisher at San Diego State. He's done a great job since he's
20 wins every year. 20 wins every year.
And now they're finally in the Sweet 16. They've been waiting to get over that hump. He's finally got there, and I think he's going to make the most of his opportunity. Again, I'm taking Alabama, but if San Diego State does the things that I just mentioned, they have a great shot at winning this game.
Yeah, no, they have the ingredients to beat Bama. And like I said, Bama has a look crisp. And I wonder if the pressure and everything going on behind the scenes is affecting their play, especially with Brandon Miller. He's going through a lot and all that. So I wonder if it's just, like I said, if they can hold Brandon Miller, like you're not going to stop him completely. You know, he's going to get his, he's going to get his 20. But if you can make him work and force Quinterly and company to try to do some stuff, I don't know. San Diego State could pull off the upset, but I think Alabama. I think Brandon Miller is going to have a game because he has been struggling a little bit. I think he's going to bounce back and have that game that's going to make him people be like, yo, this is why he's a top 3 pick or maybe the top 2 pick, you know, why people are talking about. So I think Bama gets it done. And they're my national championship pick, so I'm going to stick with them. So we're going to go with Bama. So that's our Sweet 16. I know you're hype, bro. I know you're excited. It's a big, Michigan State with a chance to get to the Elite Eight and hear that beautiful song, that I've been hearing about, and it's been upsetting me, but all that. But that's going to conclude another episode of Get a Bucket. We're going to be back. We're going to talk after the Elite Eight. We'll be back and we'll talk about who's potentially going to the final. Kev, it's almost over, bro. Season 1, Get a Bucket. We're almost at the end line. And like I said, we're going to do a lot more stuff, getting some more recruiting and all that. But season's almost concluding. We're at great tournament so far. And we're at the Sweet 16. And, this weekend we'll know who's going to be in the Elite Eight. It's going to be exciting. Kev's excited to state, and all that. But another great show, bro. Another great show.
Sir, man. Again, as always, appreciate y'all for tuning in, making it this far. If you did, again, got to always say shout out to Off the Ball Network. Shout out to Prezi for holding it down. We're going to keep doing it, man. It's been a blast. Like you said, we're gonna get Elite Eight. We're going to see the Elite Eight this weekend. We're going to see the Final Four this upcoming week after that. So it's been a blast, man. Great episode, and let's keep rocking.
Let's keep rocking. Like I said, we got the Elite Eight approaching. We'll see. We'll be back for another episode to Get a Bucket after that to get into the Elite Eight and all that good stuff. And if any other coaching hires happen and anything else in recruiting, transfer portal, we'll get you ready for that and all that. But on that note, I'm Chris LeBron. It's Kev Lucas. Get a Bucket podcast. We out.